I think we've all been in situations where we've been a bit frightened. And whenever we're in these situations where we might be a little bit afraid, we have two options. We can run to the thing that scares us, or we can run away from that thing that scares us. I remember a few weeks ago, I had just gotten a new bike and I was super excited. I haven't been bike riding in a long time. And I was going down the road right in front of the neighborhood, and I was going as fast as I could, and I went around the corner and my foot caught on something and the bike stopped and I went flying over the bike. I ended up cutting up my legs and I cut up my heel. I ended up having to get 6 stitches, and it was something that really scared me. I was not allowed to bike ride for a week or two. And once I was finally got the stitches out and ready to be back on the bike, I remember my first bike ride back. I never really fallen as a kid on a bike. I never really got super hurt. So this was really the first time of really getting hurt on the bike. But I remember my first time getting back on, and I was a little afraid. I didn't go as fast as I once did on the bike. I was a little afraid of the hills. And I was kind of running away from that thing that scared me. But I knew that if I wanted to get any better at biking, I had to continue on. The story of David and Goliath is the opposite. David isn't a guy who sees something that frightens him and runs away from it, but he actually runs towards it. The story of David and Goliath is a story of courage, of what it looks like to run full speed towards something, even when it frightens you. If you're familiar with this story, there's David, a young shepherd boy, who was out in the fields. He was shepherding his flock, and his brothers were out at war against the Philistines. David went to go visit his brothers, and they saw this giant Philistine up against them. Everyone was afraid, but David, he ran towards them. It says this in verse 48. As the Philistine Goliath moved closer to attack the people, David ran quickly towards the battle line to meet him. How crazy is that? David runs quickly towards the battle line to meet Goliath. He reaches into his bag and takes out a stone. He slung it and struck the Philistine on the forehead. It says the stone sank into his forehead and Goliath fell face down on the ground. So David triumphed over the Philistine with a sling and a stone. Without a sword in his hand, he struck down the Philistine and killed him. And the truth of this great victory that David experiences is this isn't the first time he faced a challenge. David was a shepherd, so he probably was familiar with times of needing courage when he had to fight off different things to protect his flock. And then when it came down to it, it says that David ran towards the battle line to meet his giants. From David's story, we know that David was a guy who practiced courage. He practiced courage in the small things and the big things. And the truth is, when we practice courage, those small things, things that once made us frightened, will turn into our victories. So I encourage you guys today, practice courage, even in the little things, and watch your fears become your victories.